Welcome to At The Xenter podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Dixon, and I am sitting down with the legendary 1998 Hall of Famer, Mike Singletary.
Hello, hello. Good to be here.
You know, I have sat with you many a times, and you have the best motivational stories, but you also have the best inspirational stories. You know, we talk about the difference between motivation and inspiration. Inspiration is what leads you to a great life. Motivation is just for the moment. You know, we talked today about you having 7 children, 17 grandchildren, and 3 on the way. That is a life to have. Can you tell me a little bit about your kids and your grandkids?
Our kids are, they are truly amazing. Couple of knuckleheads in the bunch. Got 5 girls, 2 sons. And one of my joys is to sit in a room and just listen. I love listening to my kids talk. And that's what I spend most of my time doing when I'm with our family is I love to listen. I love to listen to what stories they're telling and from their perspective, how it happened. And I'm sitting there thinking, it didn't happen like that. So, but especially the girls, as they get into it, they're,
Yes.
and you know, we don't, okay. But the coolest thing is, as my wife and I get older, we get better. We get so much better. And I tell our kids now, I said, wait a couple of more years as your kids become teenagers and they get involved in life and other things, and we're gonna become really smart then. So I'm excited about that.
And with speaking of your wife, Kim, y'all met in college. So tell us how you met. I think that is one of the best stories ever. But, you know, I have a MySpace meeting and I don't think it's as good as your story.
Well, I was my second year in school at Baylor University, and I'm late for class, and so I'm going and I'm going towards the business school, and Kim's coming from the business school, and we're both kind of passing each other, and I saw her, and I just kind of continued to watch her, and I thought I was kind of shaking it off. So wait a minute, that could be my wife, and I'm thinking, why did I just say that? And you keep walking, and a few days later, I'm at the library, and I always sat at this particular table and really didn't want anybody to sit there. I didn't want to talk about football. I was trying to study. And so Kim comes up again, and there are no chairs. It's taken. The library is full. And she says, excuse me, do you mind if I sit here? I'm just studying. I sit there at the other end. And so I'm like, hey, how you doing?
That's
And
her.
it's her. And so I'm thinking, wow, okay. What are you studying? And we just kind of just started talking. And we ended up closing the library. We were the last 2 people in the library. And we were just talking and talking and talking. And I never talk like that.
But did you get any studying in?
No, absolutely not. We just kept talking, and I'm thinking, I've never talked to a girl like this. It was like talking to your best friend.
It was easy.
Yeah, and so when we left, she was going towards her dorm, and I was going toward my dorm, and as I was going back, I kept looking back toward the library, and I'm saying, yeah, what just happened there? There's something about that girl. And so a couple of days later, I saw her and I said, hey, would you like to go get a Coke or something like that? And she said, yeah. So we're driving back to the dorm, um, before curfew, and I had an out of body experience. So I'm driving and she's talking, and I really like the way she talks and what she's saying and whatever. And I got my goals. I got things that I want to do, and
Right.
I'm thinking, no, I don't have time to think about that. I gotta focus on my goals, and I gotta do this. And man, I tell you what, all of a sudden I stopped the car and I said, this doesn't make sense. But I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to see you again. I don't want to talk to you unless you tell me you'll be my wife. And I'm saying this and I'm thinking, are you crazy? What are you thinking? What are you doing? But that's what I said. And when I said it, I'm trying to get it back, but it's out. And I'm thinking,
Oh no.
okay, what am I doing? What did I just say? And she says, okay. I go, all right. So I'm driving back to the way. I'm thinking, what are we doing? What just happened? So, anyways, that's how we met.
That's amazing. It's I always believe in God's timing. You know, he knows what you need when you need it, even though we don't know. We think we have a plan and we have to do A, B, C, and D, but sometimes he's like, yeah, but you need a partner to complete this plan. And this is the perfect one.
Well, what's really interesting is I was just talking to Kim about this the other day. In the past year, it's really dawned on me how much I love her, how much I appreciate her.
Mm.
And when I think about it, when I go back and I think about school, I studied hard. I really, really studied hard. And I was the kind of student that I had to hear it over and over. I brought a tape recorder to school, and I taped it and I listened to it, and I listened to it again, and then I need to write it all over the room so that I could sit down and look at it and see if it made sense to me. Oh, that doesn't make sense. How about over here? And I had paper everywhere. That's just the way I learned. And then at football practice, I had this coach that drove me nuts every day. He was really hard. I mean, he was really, really hard. And sometimes he would get on me so much that the other linebackers would be crying for me. And
Wow.
I was hard headed. I was stubborn. And I didn't like him, and I thought he didn't like me, but he was trying to get it out of me. And I was so stubborn. I was so hard headed. I thought I already knew everything. And one day I was thinking, I said, the thing that got me through school was I always knew that I was going to see Kim later that day. We were
Mm.
going to study together. And being with her, it just made all the difference. I could make it through practice. I could make it through class. Um, and I just saw her face and how kind she was and how nice she was and how friendly she was. And I thought, wow, what if I didn't meet her? She just brought such joy to my life all the time. And it's been that way. It's when I was drafted to the Bears, it was the same thing. I had another really tough coach or whatever, but it was always knowing I can do all this. Yeah, okay. What else you want me to do? I can do all of that as long as I'm going to see her at the end. At the end of the day, I'm going to see her. I can make it.
I was talking to Kim earlier and I said, when we had lunch together in Houston, I said, he spoke so sweetly about you. It just touched my heart because it's one thing to hear other people say it. Like people tell me all the time, like, your husband speaks so highly of you. But she'll have this forever, to hear that, to know that you are loved so deeply and so intentionally is very special.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she knows that.
And I'm just beaming for joy for her because it's a special moment. So I just had to gather my bearings on that. And then I think about the other meeting. I think about you meeting Dr. Dixon at Children's Shriners. What was your experience like meeting the children there and meeting him at 11, right after his amputation, and having such an impact, a profound impact? You were visiting a hospital for sick children, sick and disabled children, and then now we're gonna pivot you years later, 30 plus years later, into working on a board with him, chairing a board with him for the democratization of healthcare.
The thing that the older I get, the more I realize in life that nothing just happens. Nothing. And that's why it's so important um, to make conscious decisions every day, and really think about what you're doing, really think about what you're saying. Because on our path, every road that we travel, we go down that road, but at some point in life, you're going to come up back the same road. At some point in time in life, it's just the way life works out. I
Right.
see it. I see it. Um, it's just life. It's the way it is. And so for me, I tell my kids, whatever you do, make sure that you're always taking the high road in life. I don't care what happens. I don't care hell or high water. Somebody lied on you. Somebody did this. Somebody did that. You know what? Take the high road. I said it's taken a while for me to really understand that. I want people to know, hey, they did me wrong. And you know what? You'll never. No,
No.
it feels good, but the payoff is poor. But it is so wonderful to see the heart of someone that is going to take the high road. So when you think about going to see these kids, you don't know what they've been through, you don't know where they've been, um, and you have an opportunity to go touch a life. You have what does it cost you to go? You don't even have to say anything. Just go and wave or however, and
Show
they're
up.
just thankful you came. Yeah, but to say, you know what, it's gonna be all right. You know, it's I don't know where you come from. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what you've been through. And I don't know where you are right now. But it's gonna get better. And it's important for anybody, let alone a kid, um, to hear because they still believe. Um, Kids still believe, man. They still believe that when an adult says something, you mean that? You mean that for me? You mean that could happen to me? You mean it's gonna work out? As we get older, we get more cynical, but as kids, when you tell somebody it's gonna be okay,
They believe
I'm
you.
so glad I came to see you. And I know today is not the best day, but man, it's gonna get better. Just just hang in there. Just believe. That really is the key to life. Just believe. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they do. Believe. Um, Believe that there are better days ahead. and it will come.
Was there ever a moment where you ran into like a kid or some young man and you realized how much impact your career had on them?
I can think about a number of things, a number of um, people that I've met that, you know, may break down and cry and just say, I never thought I'd meet you. You have no idea. I know your story.
Mhm.
And, um, you know, the only thing that comes to mind when that happens is realizing that if I don't fight, if I don't scratch, if I don't do everything that I can to make it and strive to honor God with the ability that He gave me, which a lot of people didn't think was much. You know, you don't have much. You're not going to go far. You're not going to do much. You're not going to, you know, those were the things that I heard. And so by being the last of 10 kids, no one expects a lot. You know, you're kind of, yeah, he just kind of happened. The smallest one, uh, kind of like David.
Yeah.
You know, no one saw it. No one, and I was just working at it, just dreaming. So when someone says, "Wow, you know, look at what you've done," you know, and it's like, if I don't do the work, and if I don't believe, then this moment is just nothing. So all of us, you know, what's amazing to me is I tell my kids, all of us, I even tell Kim, you know, we owe it to not only God, we owe it to ourselves and each other to strive to be all that we are capable of being and then give the glory to Him and just keep moving. That to me is that's really what life is all about. That's really the key to me is just do the work, man. Just do what you know God has called you to do. I don't care how you feel. I don't care how afraid you are. I don't care how long it's gonna take. The most important thing that's your gift. That's your gift. That's your why. That's your magic. That's it.
Wow. Yeah. And I think if we love people the way they need to be loved, and sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's a touch, sometimes it's a hug, whatever it is, you show up better for people, life will show up better for you. It's
Yeah.
just about living a better life to help everyone else. And when we talk about helping other people, we're also talking about healthcare, right? And you have, like I said, 10, 17 grandchildren, 7 kids, 3 grandchildren on the way. You know, you already have doubled what you wanted just in those numbers. But when you think about your role as a father and a grandfather, how does that push you to want to have more hope and better access for healthcare for them in the future?
You know, one of the things I think about a lot is the legacy. You know, all of us passing through life, and we have to make an investment when we have an opportunity. One thing about my kids that I don't do, I don't give my kids now that they're parents. I don't give them advice on how to raise their kids. I don't give them advice. You ought to do that. I don't do that. And I've told my kids, you know what? If you want to know something, their kids can come to our house and tear up stuff. And, you know, I may say, okay, then don't do that. But They can just do whatever they want to do, and all I'm doing is taking notes. I'm
Mhm.
just taking notes. And when my kids come and pick up their kids, they know that I have notes. And Dad, how was that? I said, okay, this one you got to spend some time with. You're gonna have to spend some time with. This one, timeout may not be enough. You may have to do a little bit more than a timeout. They have to be more mature for timeout. This one is really sweet. You're gonna have to build their confidence. Things like that. So for me, it's all about making an investment, building value into your life, the time that you have here. And I don't want to be talking all the time. I want my kids, I want my grandkids, I want them when someone asks them, tell us about your grandfather. I want them to be able to tell them things that it made them feel better. I don't, the fact that the grandfather was a football player, your dad was a football player, he did this, he did that, he won this award, he won that award. That's all good. But what did he do for you? What investment did he make for you? I think about my mom, and man, when I was at Baylor, that was the other face. Sometimes I was overwhelmed in school, and with all of the pressure, and man, I wanted to call home and say, this is hard. But I knew all hell was breaking loose at home
Because
too.
it was there's
Yeah,
9 other
it's
kids.
tough there too.
Yeah.
So you sit up there and you look out of the window and cry and think about, I got to do this. I don't know how, but I got to do this. And it just comes down to putting one foot in front of the other and making sure that you commit to doing it, and realizing that your grandkids, your kids, one thing for sure about your kids, they're always watching,
Mm, they are.
always watching. And the greatest lesson that I want my kids to know or learn, and my grandkids, is what grandpa did and not what he said.
And that's important because I think a lot of people, especially in our community, we have a lack of men in our households. And there's times where our parents, our moms, well, especially mine, looked for men to help raise me or raise my brothers because we need a strong voice. We need a strong show up. We need somebody just to sit there with us and just change the atmosphere just with his presence.
Well, you're so right by that. Um, I was very fortunate in that sometimes tragedy, you come out of tragedy and you see things differently, and it really makes a difference. And at 12 years old, there was a lot of tragedy in my life. At 12 years old is when my dad left. My brother Grady was killed in an automobile accident 6 months after my dad left. And I was really about to give up. And up until that time, I was just a snotty nosed kid, brat, getting into trouble all the time. My mom's wondering what is gonna become of me. I'm hanging out with the wrong guys, um, and I was going nowhere fast. But when my dad left and my brother was killed in an automobile accident, I started thinking, I began to battle with myself about what am I going to do with my life? Um, you know what? I'm not going to work too hard to be the best because I see that that may not happen. My brother just got killed in an automobile accident at 21 years old. And dad left mom, who mom was trying to make it work, and now he's gone. So here's mom working 2 or 3 jobs. And she comes home, she can't even talk to me because she's falling asleep at the table. And I'm thinking, you know what? No, I'm not going to try to be the best that I can be. I'm not going to try to be the best student that I can be. I'm not going to try to do all that stuff. I'm just going to stay right in the middle. I'm just going to be very average. That way I don't get hurt. I have no great expectation. I'm just going to stay in the middle. And that was the day that my life changed because my mom knew me very well. And she said, son, I want you to just come here for a minute. I know you're hurting. I know there's a lot going on in your mind, son, but I want you to know that greatness is in you. So I'm telling you, I see it. I saw it when you were born. You were fighting. Greatness is in you, son. She said, I want you to understand about life. One thing about life, when you get punched in the gut, when they knock you to the ground, son, it's not if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You got to make the decision right now that you are going to get up and you're going to dust yourself off. You're going to get back in the ring and you're going to keep swinging. And you just got to keep swinging until you're the only one left. This is life, son. Then she put her hands on my forearm and she asked me the question that changed my life. She said, I want to know if you can become the man of the house. I know it's unfair. You're only 12 years old. But can you do that for me?
That's a heavy question for a 12-year-old.
I said, Mom, I can do that. And that's when I walked in my room and I got out a sheet of paper and I wrote out my vision statement. Everything changed. The very next day when I went to school, there were 4 guys I was hanging around with. I got them together at lunchtime and told them, I can no longer be your friend. I'm going out for the football team. I'm like, what? You can't play. You're too small. You can't play. You're not going to make it. It's okay. And I went out for the team. And I just kept working at it. Nothing was special. I'd like to be able to tell you that the first day, man, they saw, oh, he's going to be great. No, it was like, who is this kid? I mean, he's just a little, he's not going to be able to help us. But I was asking the coaches, well, how do I get better? You know, you don't even know what position you're going to play. You want to play fullback? So what is that? A fullback, you know, they block and, you know, sometimes they catch the ball. That's a fullback. No, I don't think I'm a fullback. So how about safety? What do? Well, they play on defense. They're back about 10 yards and they help the cornerbacks and, you know, every now and then they come up and they make a tackle. No, it doesn't sound like I'm a safety either. So, well, you're a little bit small for the next thing I'm going to say. Linebacker, middle linebacker. So what do? So middle linebackers stand behind the line of scrimmage and they hit everything that moves. They're mean, they're nasty. They like to hit. They're headhunters. They're the meanest guys on the field. And when they're in the huddle, they look everybody in their eyes and make sure that they're ready to play. I said, that's what I want to play. And I started playing middle linebacker. from that day forward.
Wow. I want to get to the healthcare end of it, but I heard a story. I heard a story, and I have to hear this story because Dr. Dixon told me. So I have to hear it from you though. He said there was a time when a recruiter came in looking for you, but didn't believe it was you. So that's a true story.
Oh, it's a true story.
Can I? Because I only heard it second
Yeah,
person.
this was my junior year at Baylor. I was coming off the field. We were in spring ball, and I was coming up, and this guy was coming out of the video room, and he looked at me and he said, "Excuse me, can you tell me what Mike Singletary is?" I said, "That's me." He said, "No, I'm talking about Mike Singletary. Come on, where is he at?" I said, "That's me." He said, "You are not Mike Singletary. I just saw the film in there. You are not him." And that wasn't the first time that happened. That happened a few times. But anyway, I said, "You know what? How about come down, walk down here with me to the trainer's office, and you can ask the trainer." He said, "Man, okay, all right, come on." So we go down there and we walk in, and Skip Cox, the head trainer, is in there. And I said, "Skip Cox, who am I?" "What do you mean, who are you?" "Would you tell this guy who I am?" "Mike Singletary." "Okay, you're Mike Singletary."
Yes.
I just watched film. I can't believe that's you that I just saw. I said, that's me. I said, "Wow, okay." So, "Well, you're a lot smaller than I thought you were." So I said, "Well, that doesn't make any difference." I said, "What you saw on film, that's who I am." And I said, "If you don't draft me, you're gonna end up paying for that." So that's how that conversation went.
And you said you had many of those, which is so crazy. But people always, every time I tell people that I met the legendary Mike Singletary, they're always like, I remember on TV his eyes. They would always show his eyes because he was so intense. I was like, well, I see the nicer version of that. He's but I see a caring set of eyes. I don't see the intense football player, linebacker, want to tackle everything. I see a man who cares about the future of healthcare, the future of the world. You met our CEO recently, Rich Linder. What are your thoughts on his passion and his leadership?
I think it's a great passion, and time will tell as we go forward. Um, what he has on the agenda is truly amazing. It's a game changer when you begin to talk about some of the procedures that he's striving to do, and some of the technology that he's building is truly disruptive. And I think that more than anything, it's just time. Once it gets rolling and gets moving as it is, it's just going to continue to gain momentum. And I think it's just going to change a lot of lives. It's going to save a lot of lives. It's going to save a lot of money. Hospitals and caregivers, and I just think that is, from everything I'm seeing, everything I'm hearing, you're kind of on the cusp of something really, really special that I'm not quite sure we quite know the effect of it yet.
Right. And what does it mean to you to serve on a board that's going to change the way the world approaches healthcare and data? Because that's a huge thing that we're pressing towards now.
What it means to me, healthcare, ever since I began to understand, there was a time that, when I talked about my goals
Mhm.
and what I talked about the things that are really important to me, God, family, country, it's changed. Um, God is never going to change. That's always going to be number one. And, then you think, well, family is next, but not for me. Health is next. Um, the older I get, the more I realize. And when I listen to families talk about their parents or grandparents they're trying to take care of, they're trying to figure this out, they're trying to, where are we going to put them? What are we going to do? And I said, wait a minute, hold on. I don't want anybody talking about me like that. I don't want anybody talking about what are you going to do for, where are we going to put grandma and grandpa? What do you mean, where you going to put us? I know where you going to put us, where we want to be. And so for me, the greatest gift that we can give our family is our health. So to be able to have a situation where when you're talking about technology and where that's going, you talk about health and where that's going, it allows people that look like you and me in those neighborhoods to be a part of that and not get left behind. Have a chance to really buy into health is important. And it's not just people that look like you and I, it's people that um, all over the world that can't afford it, whether they're white, black, yellow, brown, whatever. It's important that we get to the place where healthcare is important to all people.
What kind of legacy do you hope that we can and our future leaders can leave for the next generation?
For me, it is the question that I always want to answer every time I look in the mirror before I go to bed. Did I get better today? Did I do the best that I possibly could today? And I think with some of the things that we're doing here, the answer is yes. Unequivocally, yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Coach. I know we only had a little bit of time, but we're going to sit down together again soon.